Today's story is the great family. We know that God is in all of creation. God is the creator and he created everything. And we know that God walked with Noah and preserved life through Noah and the ark. Now we're going to talk about Abraham and Sarah and their journey. And the people living around back then believed in many different gods. But Abram and Sarai, they believed in one God and that God was everywhere. So we're going to hear their story. This is the desert box. So many wonderful and important things happen in the desert. We can't have a whole desert in our classroom, but this is a piece. The desert is a dangerous place. It is always moving, and it is hard to know where you are. There is little or no water in the desert, and almost nothing grows there. At daytime, it is hot, and the sun scorches your skin. In the nighttime, it is cold, and the winds blow, and the sand stings when it hits you. People wear protective clothing to protect them from the blowing sand. The desert is a dangerous place. When the flood was over, the creatures went out in all 4 directions of the earth to find life again. They gathered along the rivers and ended up in one of the ancient cities. People there believed there were many gods. A god for a tree, a god for a rock, a god for every flower. There was a god for everything. But one family, Abram and Sarai, believed that God was in every place. They didn't know that, but that is what they thought. When it came time to move to a new place, they were not sure that God would be there. So they wondered what this new place would be like. They walked all of their sheep and donkeys and even old people, and they would sleep at night in tents, and during the day they walked along the river. It took a long time, and they met people in this new place. And sometimes Abram would go out into the desert, and God would come so close to Abram, and Abram would come so close to God. He knew what God wanted him to do. Abram and Sarah did what God said. They went out in the desert. They took his brother's son Lot, some of their belongings, and left. Finally, they came to a new place. Abram climbed up high, and God was so close to Abram, and Abram was so close to God. And God was in this place, and they built an altar to mark it. But they did not stay there. They traveled on. And they prayed and came so close to God. And God was so close to them. And they marked this place near Bethel. But this was not where God wanted them to stay. They went on. One night, Abram went outside, and God was so close to him, and he was so close to God. And God said, "You will become a father of a great nation, and Sarai will be a mother. The members of the great family will be as many as stars in the sky, or grains of sand in the desert." Abram laughed. Sarah was very old. They both were. This seemed impossible. But God changed their names to Abraham and Sarah. Then 3 visitors came. Do you know what will happen? You will have a son. Abraham was sitting by his tent and couldn't believe this. Sarah was mixing flour and preparing bread and meat for them to eat. She heard them saying this and she laughed, not because she thought it was funny, but she couldn't believe it. The three strangers went away. And do you know what happened? Abraham and Sarah had a son, and they named him Isaac, which means laughter. Isaac grew older, and Sarah passed away and was buried. And Abraham was lonely, and he missed Sarah very much. But he had one more thing to do. He sent his most trusted helper to go back and find a wife for Isaac. And that is the story of Isaac and Rebekah. And they were married. And they had children, and their children's children had children. And thousands of years later, there was children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And these are your mothers and fathers. You now are part of this great family. I wonder how you feel to know you are part of the great family. The family that numbers the stars more than the grains of sand. I wonder what was your favorite part of the story. I wonder if there's any part that we could leave out and still have all that we need. I wonder where you are in the desert.